People deluded, I'm back again. Yeah, I think you just saw my phone in my hand at this point. I'm sure you've all seen it. Courtesy of Arseblog. They do a good little podcast and them things there, and good little Arsenal opinions and stuff like that. I think David Ornstein's been on their podcast and he's shown a few sound waves, sound bites, whatever you call it, just talking points for us. So we might as well go over a couple. As you see, I've got my phone in my hand because it's all there. But and I was a bit lazy. I don't want to get the laptop. But let's look at some of them. Which one should we go for first? Let's speak with Perisic first. Let's speak on Perisic. Obviously, these are all quotes. But firstly, on just summarise his quotes, it says, "My understanding is that they, obviously Arsenal, went hard for Perisic. You don't get a player who hands in a transfer request, stops training and risks his relationship with the club the size of Inter Milan. He definitely thought he'd be coming." So, okay, well, to be honest, we kind of knew Arsenal was serious in that regards. I know many people wouldn't have had that down as an Arsenal target, someone that would have been linked with Arsenal at this stage in his career, or just something feasible, because although it was going to be in loans or something like that, you wouldn't have thought that was feasible. On that topic now, it's just come to my head. I do, obviously, if Ornstein's saying we went for him, we went hard for him, but Arsenal, do we really push for players like Perisic? I wouldn't class him as Ozil at the time as Madrid, or Alexis at Barcelona, that little sort of calibre of player, but we didn't force them to leave their clubs, and neither could you the size of them two clubs. Inter Milan's a historical giant right now. We know they're not there. But on the basis of we went hard for them, or we went and secured their signings when we got a bit of encouragement. We know Alexis, it looked like he was off. Ozil, they had to get rid of someone or wanted to get rid of someone or something like that. So is it his agents moving dirty? Is it people around him, advisors? Is it him himself offering his services around Europe? Because there has to have been someone at some sort of base level, whether it was a middleman or an Arsenal executive, crossing path with Inter Milan's people or Perisic's people or someone, because that's how football works. Someone's got to have encouraged Arsenal to go hard for him. Like Arsenal, for all the criticisms we give them of not signing players, failing to get things done, when they go for a player, it has to have been because of due diligence or serious encouragement to go for it. That's one thing I give Arsenal for all the criticisms. So there has to have been something in that regards. Moving on, he went on to speak about Nkunku, a player I've spoken about in a lot of vids as well. All you got to do is look at, I think it's Deluded Guna. We need to just rate PSG for their youngsters. And I've spoken about him there. The proof's in the pudding, as you know. But he said he was a target. He was a unified target of the Arsenal hierarchy. They all wanted him. He's a player seen with high potential, a player who could perhaps succeed Aaron Ramsey in the box-to-box role. It wouldn't surprise me if they reignite their interest in the summer. Now, I like Nkunku. Like I said, he's predominantly played in midfield, central midfield. He's played on the flanks equally as well, and he's actually filled in at right back for PSG. He needs to define the sort of player he wants to be and where he wants to play. I think he's more of a creative box-to-box, like was said, big engine sort of player that wants to be, has a lot of bravado. It's down for him to define that. If you could make the case of Arsenal needing two centre mids of any variety. Personally, I would like someone of the Terrera and Zonzi skill setting that they can pass the ball forward. They might not be the most expansive, definitely I'm saying that more on Zonzi's side, but they can break down play, because I would just love to shut out games with both of them, or go into games like against City where they're going to dominate us, but if we work harder than them sort of thing, we have half a chance. I also feel, I know that's Xhaka's skill set to ball play and from midfield and things like that, and we've got Guendouzi who's a bad boy, but for me, I would like someone that can break the lines, that can connect the sort of play. The best way to describe it is if we could go and get someone like Santi Cazorla. Obviously, we can't find that again, but someone like that, people. So, or maybe someone like Zanolio. I've said it before. I like Zanolio. I like Riccardi of Roma. It's a bit too early for him, but you've seen what Zanolio's doing. He does that Ramsey stuff, running behind the last man and things like that. And he doesn't look strong because he looks a bit skinny or a bit weird stature-wise, but he's very strong. So that would be someone I would go for, but if we're going for him in the summer, then, I mean, Emery's allegedly worked with him before at PSG. He's given him minutes and things like that. The degree of their relationship, I obviously don't know. But the club's done their due diligence. Mislintat's probably ran the rule over it. And most importantly, the coach knows the player, at least on paper. So if he knows the player, he knows what he can and can't do, how he can be best utilised and things like that. Moving on. He went on to say, I'm told Unai Emery likes experienced players he likes to go with. Players he knows and trusts. So that could explain Nkunku's interest and the pursuit of Denis Suarez. And he's also said that we're linked with Rabiot. We'll get on to Rabiot, but I think Nkunku and Denis Suarez is a very interesting Thingy sort of said in that. Obviously, it depends how you define experience. I mean, Nkunku's not your average youngster. He's flown around with the stars of PSG and he's been given minutes, but he's not the oldest of players. And experience, it depends how you look at the word experience, because that's not me defining Nkunku by his age. That's by how many minutes he's played in his stature. But if you look at that another way, experience, what would you think, people? You'd think more along the 26, mid-30s sort of age. And when you look at the profile of players we've been linked with, I know they're not all 30 and that, but Perisic isn't exactly getting any younger. Penega as well. Nzonzi's technically, he's 27, 28. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and he's actually 26. And we've been linked Vida as well. And there's several others. And also we've signed soccer artists. We know that might have been mislinked, but on the topic of experienced players, Lichtsteiner the same. He obviously Czech's retiring, but he gave Czech every chance to keep his spot in the side sort of thing. So yeah, man, it depends. I'm still trying to understand Unai Emery in that regards for me personally. Moving on to Rabiot, he said, there are people within Arsenal that are keen on Rabiot. He's highly admired. There are complications around him and the people you have to deal with. That's probably a sneak diss to his mum. If you want him and his salary demands, I think that's certainly one to keep our eye on. Now, sorry, people, I locked my phone. But now, obviously, I'm sure, I've just said I think we need a central midfielder that can connect the lines and stuff. Rabiot's not necessarily the most creative, but he's a very technically based player. He's a player, I don't need to tell you who Rabiot is. I mean, imagine him and Guendouzi on the same pitch. It'd be quite amazing, innit? That would be one for my Wenger lovers. Wenger would make sure he's at the Emirates to watch that game. But it'd be a lovely signing. I don't want to say I don't think it can happen, because I didn't think Aubameyang can happen, but anything can happen, people. But Rabiot's being linked with Barcelona and them things there. I know Spurs keep trying to get his services, and he keeps saying, "I've got a man, I've got a girl. Sorry, I'm in a relationship and that." But Spurs keep trying to get his number. So if Spurs can try, we can try. But I suppose on paper he could probably afford his wage demands. But would Arsenal give it to him in a sense? I know he's technically got sell-on potential. He's young. Unai Emery knows him. You could look at him as a marquee player. He's one of the best players in the world, essentially. Obviously not top 5, but he's one of the top 20, let's say that, really. Okay, you guys get the point, innit? It'd be a big signing for us. Now, why I think it can't happen is because his wages, he's linked with Barcelona. That Barcelona move looks as good as done. I don't work for the club, or I'm not no agent, so I don't know, but it looked as good as done. So if he's linked with Barcelona, he's at PSG, why would you want to come for Arsenal? Unai Emery he'd really have to love Unai Emery in the sense that I think they've got a good relationship, but he'd really have to want to play for the gaffer sort of thing, kind of like how players want to play for Pep sort of thing, people. So we'll have to see how that one develops. People around him, his entourage. We know with Sanye, I don't want to say we've seen a change, but I didn't think we'd ever deal with guys like Regnola again, or at any capacity. I say again because obviously Daniel Marlin was one of his clients when he signed for the club, but I didn't think we'd deal with him. Mendes, I don't think we've dealt with Mendes yet, but them sort of people there, the notorious sort of agents that you hear about making a lot of money, Arsenal have typically stayed clear from their sort of clients, to which you could look at it as has harmed us. Sanye's not been at the club with that sort of thinking. Maybe that sort of avenue gets dealt with. So if we can deal with these sort of difficult people, allegedly like Rabiot's mum, his agent's allegedly one of them, then who knows? But like it said, or Ornstein better yet said, them sort of players there comes with a salary. And then you look at Ozil, you obviously look at Ramsey to be moved on. Welbs on paper will probably leave as well. Czech as well. That's all freeing up wages, but there's still question marks over several players. No disrespect to any of them. I'm not trying to name drop, but Mustafi's still getting big wages. Jenkinson and El Nene, realistically, they're not players you look at in the season, and they're people you necessarily trust or factor in the season. You only play them when push comes to shove, so they're still getting wages and eating up things. So you'd like to think Arsenal would need to move players on, decide the futures of Ozil and things like that before we even go for a player like this. That being said, I would love it, of course, people. I'd love it, of course, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think finally we ain't got much. I think I've spoken already in another vid about the £40 million budget. Alleged if we get Champions League, long story short, it could be around 100. That includes wages, people. I'm not a finance man, but that's what I took from it, including wages. It doesn't mean we've got 100 million. We can sign a player for 100 million and there's change to give him a wage. You get what I'm saying, people? We have to use that 100 million with the wages. And to be honest with you, it depends how you look at it. 100. If we're gonna spend 100 million, and I know it's wishful thinking, but spend 50 million on a top centre half and a top centre midfielder or a top winger, and give them the salary they deserve, factoring inflation and the fact that they're star players, then that would be good. Because I think football is becoming a thing where I think we're obviously seeing it. Free transfers are going to become more of a thing as people don't deem players realistically feasible to keep giving them money. But I also feel you're seeing it a lot. Like previous years, it still happens. People are chopping and changing, buying players, but now you're seeing a bit more continuity in terms of the teams. Whether that's down necessarily to the quality on the market or things like that, I'm not too sure. But you're seeing people hold on to players a bit longer than they should. I personally think Liverpool are doing the best job of that because they're challenging for titles and they're spending a lot of money and things like that. But they're tying down these players and keeping their resale value or keeping all their options. Because these Liverpool players, like Trent Arnold, he signed a new deal the other day. Obviously, he's going to be at Liverpool for the next 10 years or so, God willing, good health and things like that. But you'd like to imagine if Liverpool woke up tomorrow and said they're going to sell him, they can get top dollar. When that's our English players, we're getting £2.50 for our players. You see the sort of things we need to improve on, people. So we'll see. He also talked on Monchi coming to the club, and I'm not going to speculate, but he said, I don't know this for a fact, but I've been told by a few people that he's Sanye's and Emery's first choice, and one person's even gone on to tell him that it's a done deal. But again, he stressed that he doesn't know that for a fact. That could be hearsay. So if Monkey can come to the club, Monchi, hopefully I've said his name correctly, can come to the club together, work in tandem with Emery on the coaching front, and Sanye and all the other guys behind the scenes to sign and find players to take us forward, then not even immediately, just take us back to moving forward as a club and giving fans something positive to look forward to. I'm all for that, people. But like I said, man, I've just found the things that were relevant to me in terms of what Ornstein's done. You lot can check out the podcast yourself. Like I said, it's Arseblog. Forgive me if I'm wrong. They do some good work. If I follow them on Twitter, they do some good work with their stuff. So just head to their Twitter handle innit, and pre the podcast for yourself and take what you want from it for yourself. So yeah, man, I'm rambling at this moment. So people, DG, thank you very much. Comment, subscribe, and do the rest if you wish. For now, though, I'm out.